Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we're going to talk to a well-known business in Hampton celebrating 25th anniversary at St. George Brewery. And my guests are Bill and William Spence. Welcome.
Great. Thank you for having us.
So you guys are really well known in Hampton. I didn't quite realize 25 years though. Tell me how the company started. It wasn't right here, right?
No, it was not. The company originally started as a brew on premise over in Virginia Beach. A couple had started back in '96 time frame. I got involved in it in about the '97 time frame, getting more involved in the company. And as a brewer on premise, you had the brewing equipment there that people could come in and brew a batch, 15 gallons of beer, or buy home brew supplies if they needed it. And with the brewing equipment there, we decided that it wasn't really as viable, being in the late '90s, that people really didn't understand what microbrewing beer was all about. So we decided to go into actually microbrewing operation to brew beer to go to local bars. Started that operation and decided we want to build a big facility to actually do that properly. So in the '98 time frame, we looked around for various locations to sit down there and where we could sit there and build this. So we found a location in downtown Hampton off of Kickotan Road. Used to be an old ice plant building, Costco next to Sunset Marina.
Yep.
And so we were one of 4 tenants in that building. So we built our facility in there and got it up and running. And then fire started another 10 location and burned the building down Christmas Eve of 2000.
Oh, man.
So
what a heartbreak.
It was, and we lost our, building was condemned, and we lost most of our equipment. The nice thing about it, since it started another 10 location, by the time it got over to our side, the local fire department had rescued all our office files, so we did not lose any of our office files.
You lost the beer, but not the recipes and not the contacts
the records and everything
yeah.
else. So that was, if you call that, some luck. But that was, at least we didn't have, nothing to begin with. So we spent about 6-8 months finding out, brewing at various locations, Raleigh and Baltimore, to keep our accounts going.
Oh, wow.
And looked around to find it where we wanted to be at. Back then, brewing operations or zoning said, okay, you're manufacturing.
You're a manufacturer.
You
right.
had to be in an industrial area to some degree. So looking around, and since we were known to the city of Hampton, we said, okay, we'll stay with Hampton because, one, the water quality on the peninsula, because the Newport News water system is very consistent. So it's very important for brewing to have consistent water quality.
Right, yeah.
So we looked around and found a place of an industrial park over off of Wythe Creek. So we bought that and started renovating and got our first equipment installed and started operating in October of 2001.
That is, that is amazing. And you've grown so much since then. Like, were you just producing like kegs for local restaurants at first? When did you start
Some of that
bottling?
there and packaging bottles and such like that. We're basically in Virginia and the eastern part of North Carolina just right now, but we've been in various other locations. But this is what we pretty much have been comfortable in and up at, as far as what it is. So we've gone through a lot of different things. Andy here was my brewmaster for 22 years. He retired.
And he's kind of the face. He's the one who came on this show before.
That's right. He's been on before and stuff like that. So got a tag team with him. As much as my son too. Also, we do. But when you sit down there and take a look at where we're at, we're kind of unique. And we're a location because we do have some land outside of us. We're not, in a strip mall, which brings us to the other point of it is as a forerunner, being one of the only surviving microbreweries in the Hampton Roads area. Basically, we were built as a packaging brewery for basically off-premise sales.
Because that's all you could be at the time.
That's right.
And really, there weren't any microbreweries at that point. There was one in Virginia that...
There was Hilltop over in Virginia Beach, and then there was off of Jefferson, there was the Old Virginia Smokehouse or went to Atlanta's. But that was, those are pretty much that was before their time, before the state law changed in 2012 that allow manufacturers to actually sell beer on premise for consumption. So once that state law changed, everybody wanted to jump in. And when you sit down there and take a look at, when I started, there were probably about a dozen or so breweries in the state. Now there's over 300 breweries in the state.
Yeah, and I really feel like you sort of blazed that trail because you did have to wait. I mean, you were ready for your tasting room before zoning laws caught up, and you were one of the impetuses for those zoning law changes.
And the thing about it is we designed our facility as manufacturing, not as a tap room. When you go to a lot of these other places, their tap room
they knew they were building
is built first, and that's where the people come and see. But we're kind of different vibe because people will be out on our production floor. During the day, with production after hours, it's social time. So we drop tables down and people are right there out and seeing the equipment right next to them.
Now, you're so far out on the corner of Hampton, a lot of people think of you as a Poquoson brewery. You're not. You're Hampton.
Nope.
We want to claim you.
That's correct. We're still Hampton. Even though people think, well, you're close to York County or close to Poquoson, but yet we're still within Hampton. We're right across the street from the Hampton Langley garbage steam plant and Langley NASA.
Yeah, that's a good location out there in some ways. In some ways, it's off to the side because of the manufacturing requirement that there was at the time. But now it's a pretty mainstream, and you're close to NASA and Langley and a lot of folks out there.
And we're pretty much still much in a bedroom community. We do get a lot of families that come by, and we have space for the kids to run around.
Now, is that different? So many people don't see a brewery as a family space. I mean, that is something that happened 10 years ago or so. I mean, it's really common now. I mean, these are places you can take your kids and the whole family. And I don't know that people who don't do that really have seen this change.
It depends on if they got the space that they allow to do it. But, we consider ourselves to be more of a cheers bar, where everybody knows each other. And that's pretty much when you take a look at our clientele. We know the faces, we know what they want to order and such like that. And then as opposed to, we're not, over on the beach side that you get the tourist traffic or stuff like that, or we're not what I consider to be the beer geek type thing that we have the flavor of the week type of thing. But we're pretty much what I consider to be a family-focused affair.
Yep. All right. So you grew up kind of, I mean, not entirely, but you sort of grew up in the brewery, right?
Off and on, yes. But my son has actually grown up in the brewery. So we are a family-friendly and a dog-friendly environment.
My dog were friendly, but he's not.
On a leash. We have leash laws.
Yes.
But when you sit down there, we are a local watering hole, and I don't want to use that as a negative. It's actually a positive thing because we have a community. We get to know our clientele. We know what they like to drink. We talk, we socialize, and we're actually, out with them. We're not behind the scenes. We actually will sit and have a conversation with people who want to know about the styles, want to know what's going on. But growing up in the beer industry has been really interesting. I get to taste a lot of beer. It's nice.
Kind of a fringe benefit. Yeah. But we're very much, community focused. We're pretty much into Animal Aid Society from Hampton is pretty much one of our regular supporters that we do.
Nice.
St. Jude. There's a number of organizations that we pretty much assist and sponsor.
Well, so let's talk about what your big beers are, and are you doing something special for your 25th anniversary?
Yep, our 25th anniversary, we have a German-style Maibach. That's a kind of a amber-style lager that has got a little bit of a hop character that's a little higher in alcohol strength. So it's about 7.6% alcohol by volume.
But most of yours are not the extremely strong beers that we see sometimes.
No.
No, we're pretty much sessionable beers, which means that, you can drink 2 or 3 of them and not get wasted.
And that is the point. When I say they're family-friendly places or places to sit and chat, the point is not to get drunk. The point is to enjoy and take your time and talk to people and, have a good evening.
Yeah, it's socializing. It's a beer garden. It's a community space.
Now, over the years, you've won awards. You've won so many awards. Is there one or two particular brews that stand out as being your top award winners?
The Honey Mead Lager is one of our large medal winners because it's a very unique honey flavored style, and it's run a number of gold medals from the state cup competition and such. So.
Now, speaking of the honey mead, how did you have hives there at the brewery? How did that start? How did that happen?
We had a beer with a beekeeper. That's, we have a community. We sat down one day with a beekeeper who was like, I used to homebrew, but I don't want to deal with ruining my wife's kitchen. It's easier to buy a keg of beer from us to bring it home instead of making himself. And I also have hives. We have land right outside the brewery that is really nice. Let me put a hive there. One hive turned into 2 hives, turned into 4 hives, turned into 10 hives, and now we have 13 hives.
That is awesome because, you all already know, but for the public out there, it is important that we sustain local bees because without bees, without pollination, we're in a world of hurt and they're threatened now. So it's really wonderful that you guys are doing this. And of course, it's good for the beer too.
It is. And the fact that it is because we're pretty much in a residential area, we don't have a distinct crop pollination. So it basically is bees that get a little bit of everything through all the neighborhoods from, Running Man all the way over to some of Pocosin to, of course, the areas and NASA.
And you told me before we started a story about one of the hives, and I want you to tell that again. It's a rescue.
All right. Basically, the bees swarm and try and find a new location. And because our beekeeper is retired Navy, he has military clearance. So he got a call saying there's a swarm on the tail of an F-22 over at Langley. Wow. And they didn't know what to do with it, but they knew, call a beekeeper. And because he had flight line clearance, they took him on, and he gathered the swarm off the tail of an F-22, and he took it back, and now it's become one of his most prolific colonies. So it's one of those things you never know where you're going to get a call that you have a swarm to go and remove from somebody's house or place or whatever.
Yeah, that's really neat. So, and I'm going to look to William for this. What do you think the next 25 years hold? Where does the brewery go from here?
Where I would like to see it go or where it's actually going to go?
You can tell me either one.
We're gonna be a cornerstone of our area. We're gonna still be making beers that everybody likes. We'll have a couple new flavors, but we have over 20 beers on tap right now, and people get used to the style of beer that they like to drink. And so they'll try some new things, but we've got a lot of old standbys that people really like to enjoy. And you're gonna see not just the parents and the kids, but you're gonna see grandkids. We're gonna see multiple generations of people coming to the brewery, stopping in, having a beer, and socializing.
And it is true, you're not the experimental, sour, all kinds of the different flavors nearly as much. You brew beer-flavored beer. And yeah. Some beers don't taste like beer, but yours clearly does. And you follow some really traditional styles.
Yeah. And it's go back to, we're standard cheers concept. We're sitting there and we're basically, the community, family-based facility.
So tell me where the name St. George comes from. Why did you pick that?
St. George was the patron saint of both England and Germany, and we wanted to focus on English ales and German lagers initially. My brewmaster has extensive European experience, so he wanted to brew what he likes to drink.
A lot of people do, right?
So this question is, so we brew what we like to drink. You go to a lot of these places, you don't necessarily see the staff drinking what they're producing, but we want to sit down there and enjoy what we do. And we hope that everybody else does.
That's right. Anything else you want to add? Well, let me ask, as I love to ask family businesses this, how is it working together? You guys are together a lot. Has that been a challenge? Has that been really rewarding? Tell me a little bit about it.
It's been interesting. When you sit there and go to the office, you know, he's kind of hidden in his little corner. I've got my corner, and I'm out on the production floor a lot anyway. But it's one of those things that, you know, he has his niche. He does the IT and some of the other aspects, and so everybody has a kind of a division of labor, so to speak.
Did you know you were going to do it, or did you have to strike out on your own first?
I struck out on my own. I was a paramedic for 10 years. I call it there's a line. And that line is it's a good idea at the time. As a medic, I was way after that line. Now, selling beer, I'm way before that line. So I get to see society at its best and it's at its worst. And I just couldn't deal with prolonging the lives. I just didn't like that aspect. I'd rather deal with the easier time, the easier people to manage.
Yeah.
But it's very rewarding. It's actually really interesting. The tidbits I find out about my father that I wouldn't get in regular conversations.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a really wonderful thing to have and cherish.
It has a certain amount of friction too, but, you know, like any others, you know, dealing with family issues.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, I cannot control the radio, TV, or thermostat in my own office.
Gotcha.
Well, you're not in there enough.
And how old is your son? You have a son named William also,
yes,
right?
He's going to be 12 this year.
All right. So he has some time to figure out. He can't even really be a taster yet for you. Legally.
No, but he is definitely trying to figure out how to run the forklift.
That's the fun part, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So you'll have a forklift driver if nothing else.
At some point in time.
So future then, you're going to kind of continue on the path you're on. Maybe there'll be a third generation involved. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. Staying in Hampton.
Yep. We have our anniversary party happening on April 29th from noon until 9. We've got an amazing local musician, Jason Kale, coming out. We've got beer releases, beer specials. We've got Nosh, which is a local food truck coming making good food.
Yeah, they're good.
That's on site full time now.
Oh, they're on site full time?
Yep.
Yes.
I wondered why. Okay, that's great.
So they do have a truck that goes out to various places, but their home base is at the brewery.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to add before we close? Come on out.
Yeah, come on out.
Come on out and have a beer with us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
And thank you for watching. We have talked to St. George before, but it is a real landmark for a smallish business, but it started small, to grow family-owned, reaching 25 years, and really having an impact on the community and supplying beer drinkers throughout the state and part of North Carolina. Thanks for watching.